Greatest Potential, Sustainability Part 1. My name is B.C. Echohawk, and I'm a Communications Coordinator with the Native Connections TTA Center. On behalf of the Native Connections team and Contracting Officer Representatives Maureen Madison and Jan Dunbar Cooper, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. In a few moments, we'll start our presentation, but first I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available in the near future. Because we are recording, all phone lines will be muted to minimize outside noise, but please don't hesitate to use the chat box to ask questions throughout the session. Today's PowerPoint is available for download on the lower right side of the screen. Just left-click on the file and the Download File button will appear at the bottom of the box. Clicking that button will start the download. Facilitating today's session will be the Native Connections Grantee Technical Assistants Gary Newman, Valerie Pingayak, and Verna Mickelson. For today's audio, if you dialed in, please use the information in the I box, which is in your upper right-hand corner. Click the downward arrow, and you will see information on how to join your phone so that if you would like to make an audio comment, you can do that. Otherwise, the chat box will be available for you to use. So before we start today, our GTA, Valerie Pingayak, is going to open up our presentation in a good way. Val?
Thank you, BC. And thank you all who are joining us. Today, I'd like to open in a good way by sharing a song with you that has always been uplifting to me. It's called Chakam Chaya, and it's a jump rope song that's popular in my village or region. Chakam Chaya in Reni Bilre, Cha Chakam Na, Chaluk Chakam Na, Kerben, Hayaluni Mak Saxore, Hayaluni Mak Saxore. Toslito, Aipani, Paluski, Utivilu Sarat Makut, Makshaksoyul Re, Chakam Nachaya, in Reni Bilre, Cha Chakam Na, Chala Chakam Na, Perpen, Hayaluni Mak Saxore, Hayaluni Mak Saxore. Toslito, Aipani, Paluski, Achnavilu Sarat Makut, Haperiul Re, Chakam Nachaya, in Reni Bilre, Cha Chakam Na, Chaluk Chakam Na, Perpen, Hayaluni Mak Saxore, Hayaluni Mak Saxore. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Valerie. What a beautiful way to begin. Welcome to the webinar on Sustainability Part 1. I'm Gary Newman, member of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribe. I'm living and working in Anchorage, Alaska with Native Connections grantees. Turn it over to Valerie to introduce herself.
Thank you, Gary. My name is Valerie Pingayak. I'm Chipik from the Kashunamet tribe of Chivak, Alaska. I'm a grantee technical assistant and I'm based in Fairbanks. Verna?
Bonjour, Ani and Verna, Indigenous of the White Earth Nation, located in northwestern Minnesota, where I've had the opportunity to serve my community in suicide prevention and education over the last 10 years. And most recently, I served as the Native Connections Project Director there. So I'm very grateful to be joining all of you today as a grantee technical assistant on this project. I'm looking forward to all the shared info to follow. And Gary, I will turn it over to you to get us going.
Thank you, Verna. Thank you very much. We wanted to do some peer-to-peer sharing around sustainability, since this is the some of you are in coming up to your final year of the grant, and we wanted to let people know that Tribal Tech has developed a Native Connections sustainability toolkit. and it has been sent out to all of you by Verna. So you've got the toolkit, and we'll be referring to that today as we go through the webinar. And when we refer to specific pages, we'll put that up on the screen. It's never too late to start talking about sustainability. Looking at the picture, it's a painting that is done and hanging in the Mount Sanford Tribal Consortium offices. If you look at the water that comes from the snow from the mountains and it flows all the way down to the ocean, what things in there can you see that are sustained by water? You can look at the villages, you can look at the caribou, you can see the fish, you can see the village itself, you can see the elders, you can see dried fish, you can see a lot of the things that happen in the village, and the salmon returning and spawning all the way down to Anchorage, where some of the products are shipped out to help sustain life from other communities that receive their goods and services. So sustainability with just the water, it isn't just water. It sustains life. It sustains subsistence. It's tied into everything that the village does. And it's such a beautiful image of a community that I wanted to put it up here to talk when we talk about sustainability. Spirituality and the concept of subsistence, it can act as a powerful guiding force on the path to sustainability. And so think about how we could use native wisdom to overcome sustainability crisis that's facing humanity to attain and maintain our greatest potentials. Our objectives today, we want to build a sense of safety and cohesion among the Native Connections grantees. And we do that in several ways. We have the regional learning communities. We have these peer-to-peer webinars. We want to identify and share grantee sustainability resources. And you'll hear more about that in Part 2 webinar. We also want to honor the unique skills and the experience and the knowledge and wisdom that comes from the Native Connection grantees. We're going to be talking about sustainability using the toolkit today, and the overview. The Suicide Prevention Resource Center recommends 4 skills for sustainability. And if you think about them, consistency, plan for sustainability early on, prioritize, decide what efforts to maintain after the funding ends, ask yourselves what worked best, what's most needed, and what can realistically be kept going. Planning, build on the partner's ability and willingness to take on key roles in program activities. Ask who is the best to take on things that are being done under the grant and what program might be able to take them on when funding is available. Implement. Training, procedures, policies are lasting pieces that can help sustain suicide prevention and postvention. Developing your policies and protocols on how to respond is something that can be not only used during the Native Connections grant, but also something that's set in place in the community that can be sustained. And then you want to document, collect and share data about the program, what your successes are, what your outcomes are, what were your processes, and then strategize how to communicate your results. The Native Connections approach, it's a guide for sustainability. Your community systems analysis and your community readiness model, your procedures, policy development, data collection, and using data for evaluation, these are all key elements of sustainability. They help you develop a realistic, community-specific sustainability plan. Your community systems analysis, as you know, is a type of asset map, and it's updated throughout the life of the grant. And it's a living document that can be used both as a current asset map, but it can also show that asset mapping skills exist in your community. Now, the community readiness model is a scientifically validated tool to assess how ready a community is to address an issue. It helped create community and culturally specific interventions and can be used for evaluation. Skills in assessment and evaluation could help secure future grants and funding. Targeting community readiness levels has strong funding opportunities as well as a better chance of succeeding, and sharing your strategies and your successes with your tribal council or with other programs that might be able to sustain certain efforts. Other things that you might want to consider around sustainability. During the grant, did you provide any evidence or practice-based interventions? Did you learn about or become trained in ASSIST or QPR so that now you can train other community members? That's something that's sustainable from the grant, because you'll still be in the community and able to provide those trainings. A good plan, it's a type of a strategic plan. It focuses on maintaining your outcomes rather than creating a program or a project. We're going to ask you to think about identifying programs and activities that have been the most effective and had positive outcomes supporting your project's goals. Which of those programs or activities can be sustained without funding? You have an advisory board, a steering committee, project coalition, or another group committed to sustaining the outcomes of your project that can help with sustainability. Are there elements of your project that have been most successful and have got the broadest support, or is closest to being sustained already? What are they? Identify those. And would you consider leveraging existing resources, approaching other partners within, finding a partner who offer related services, to strategize about how they might take on some of your program activities, or tapping into local funding streams that could support part of your project? Are there parts of your project that have the potential to generate income from its services or products? Those are all elements we want you to consider when you're thinking about sustainability. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Val.
Thank you, Gary. So how does the Strategic Action Plan objectives and outcomes help with sustainability? The Strategic Action Plan, or SAP, has key elements to help outline objectives or goals and also helps measure outcomes. It includes the vision statement because it's intended to inspire and motivate the grantees' efforts by reminding them of what they're working towards. As for the goals, Year 1 goals are identified by the grantee and approved by SAMHSA and can be extended to Year 2 if necessary. Years 2 through 5 are determined by the successes and failures of previous objectives, and ultimately you want to work towards raising those scores, those CRA scores. Since sustainability is built into the SAP, SMART guidelines should be used to develop the objectives. So what does that mean? SMART objectives. S is for specific. Why is it important that an objective be specific for sustainability? The objectives in the SAP are clearly stated so that anyone reading it can understand it. If you have a clear objective, you understand exactly the outcome you're aiming for. M is measurable. The objective should include how the actions will be measured, and I will talk more about this later when we discuss data and how data should be used in sustainability planning. A is achievable. Objectives should be realistic given the resources available in the community, as well as the availability of staff and partners. This will help in the success of your efforts. R is relevant. Are you starting at the level identified by the CRAs or community readiness assessments and continuously working on raising the readiness scores of your community? Are you sure that the goals are culturally relevant? Does each objective reflect the vision of the project? These are all important questions to keep in mind. And finally, T is for time-bound. Every objective should have a specific timeline for completion. Your strategic action plan is culture-based, trauma-informed, and strengths-based. How are you using culture to reinforce or support a projected outcome? With 3 to 5 goals per year, your SAP should be treated as a living document. So make it a point to update it as often as you can. That way, anyone who looks at it knows what has been done and what work still lies ahead. Using your SAP, you can take each objective and transfer it onto a current objectives assessment for sustainability worksheet. And you can see we should be pulling up a blank sheet of this, and it's located on page 8 in your toolkit. So that's what it looks like. You will also find in the toolkit a filled out example that's located on page 9 of the toolkit, which Verna will cover. Now let's talk about the role of data in sustainability planning. Measuring your objectives helps you determine if you're making progress or if you have more challenges than anticipated. It will help you decide if modifications need to be made, and it helps keep you on track and on schedule. You can include information such as the number of people you want to be trained as trainers in suicide prevention and by when. What is the target number of trainings to be offered in the school year or community during the school or calendar year? What is the desired outcome? It can include a list of designated staff and partners and their roles in carrying out the objectives and who will host the trainings. You can determine how each effort will be documented. Are you going to use sign-in sheets, agendas, or evaluations? Also, it would be a good idea to include who you would report to and who helps keep you accountable. Is it the advisory board, the school board, the health board? How will you report to all your partners? Will it be by teleconference, or will it be during a school board meeting or a traditional council meeting? Or is it a standalone advisory council meeting? By collecting this type of data, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, you will present a clear picture of the objectives that are successful and feasible to be carried out beyond the grant versus the ones that are more challenging and may need more planning or modification. Now I'll turn it over to Verna, who will speak on deciding what to sustain.
Miigwech. Thank you, Val. When deciding what to sustain, an established advisory board, or CAB, Community Advisory Board, is the most likely key ingredient to help sustain efforts following the grant cycle. Questions for the advisory board to answer early on, ideally by year 2 of the grant. Those questions include addressing most important aspects of the project, what is realistic to sustain, what actions need to be taken to build community sustainability. There are 4 steps to help the advisory board determine what to sustain and to develop a plan for how to do so. Step 1 is to assess current objectives. Look back at your grant application objectives or your SAP, and for each objective ask, has the project been successful in meeting this objective? If so, what changed after this objective was implemented? Can this change be sustained? Which parts of the project's work have momentum? What has helped it move forward? Whose support has been key? For step 2, assess possibility of sustaining objectives that have momentum. Again, ask, what would be the most important thing achieved to keep going? What is already sustained? What should and could be sustained yet needs more work? What partners are involved or should be involved in the efforts we think are most important to sustain? Step 3 is assess possibilities for funding that are realistic to pursue. The advisory board can then address these following questions. Do any partners have funding or other resources which could address our high priority objectives? Is there funding available from the tribe, state, or other local entities? Are there other grant opportunities we can pursue? Step 4 is to develop a sustainability plan similar to the SAP format. The advisory board and partners could develop a plan with objectives, activities, list who is responsible, and a timeline for those activities identified in step 2. Then create the plan to share with all parties. We can use the worksheet templates on page 8 and sample on page 9 of the sustainability toolkit that Valerie referenced. We can use those to help assess objectives and describe in steps 1 and 2. And Mark has that pulled up for us. Thank you. The template nicely lays out an objectives assessment for sustainability. And if you look on the page 9 at the sample, this gives specific examples to be used as a guide. So looking there at the second example given, it lists GONA as the objective, hold a gathering of Native Americans in the summer. It then lists the momentum of holding that GONA each summer, had good community participation. Next, key partners and supports are listed. Domestic violence grant helped with GONA costs, and the school provided the venue. And then concludes with specific long-term outcomes to change with this objective. Keep community healing ongoing by making GONA an annual event. This template can simplify your assessment of current objectives for sustainability. Next, let's look at partnerships and community support. Our relationships to our Native resiliency are those key relationships we have with family, elders, peers, other organizations, agencies, and tribal leadership. Similarly, sustainability of prevention efforts also strongly relies on this circle. Let's take a look at leadership support on funding. Tribal council buy-in is based on awareness and knowledge. The more familiar with initiatives, the more likely council is to help fund a position, even if that is at a quarter or part-time. Perhaps tribal council will help fund a youth council. If you do not already have council support and buy-in, it is wise to now create a list of talking points and key elements to share with them, either individually when you have that opportunity or as a whole. Some of you have wrapped up your second CRA. Take a look at Dimension C regarding leadership. Where is that level of awareness at currently? Has it increased since your first CRA? And if not, does it still show vague awareness or below? If that is the case, then it is time for your advisory board to implement strategies for levels 1 through 3, which again are no awareness, denial resistance, and vague awareness. Figure 2 on page 11, Mark, if you could bring up page 11, that lists helpful activities for addressing this area. So I'll kind of rattle through a couple of those here. Visiting one-to-one with leadership, visiting with others, small groups, and asking others to talk to leadership. For example, one experience we had, our management would provide updates and updates at quarterly meetings. They would provide a report on the programmatic updates. Engagement. So through outreach and info booths at health and community events, that's the fun part we get to do. Also local media, utilizing airwaves, newsletters, newspapers across the reservation. Many of you have previously utilized social media, which you're doing much more so nowadays, and continuing to enhance that effort and enhancing outreach in that way. Consider going live, give a presentation on the program, share your updates, announce contests and announce contest winners during a live. Let's look at leadership support on policies. So when creating policies with Tribal Council, when they adopt that policy, it is a true act of sustainability. Several tribes are developing and implementing a tribal action plan. You may hear that referred to as a TAP, Tribal Action Plan, to help achieve prevention and treatment goals, which can then include other necessary prevention policies and safeguards, such as legal protection for those crisis response teams and tribal healing to wellness court partnerships. This collaborative effort across departments and programs becomes universal within the tribe, establishing longevity of successfully established initiatives and prevention work, long sustaining changes in leadership and staff. Leadership with protocols, let's take a look at that. This will sustain the Native Connections project as well. Establish or revise protocols such as those in partnership with schools, warm handoffs with medical departments, creating MOUs, and further sustainability. Refer to the Procedure, Protocol, and Policy Development Toolkit in our Native Connections Resource Center for more explanation on these protocols, templates, and implementation guides. Leadership backing on public support. This is equally important. What leadership knows, leadership will share. Likewise, the more they know, the more they can share at other meetings and events. Examples of these areas we just spoke of regarding funding, policies, protocols, public support, and how they all come together are shown on page 12. Under Figure 3, Types of Leadership Support. In my previous role as the Native Connections Project Director within our mobile crisis team, we had a saying that a good call was our best advertisement. That was the best story we could share, appropriately, of course. And so that success story can be shared by the team as an example of policies and procedures in action and services provided. Even better is when working with partner agencies, highlighting those and how they're carried out. A prime opportunity may even present itself once an individual progresses through their self-care plan and are comfortable giving a testimony on the project, the process and success of services received. So this may allow an opportunity for a first-hand experience to speak of the project. When seeking other agencies in partnership and sustainable support, first and foremost, it is important to have an existing relationship with the agency you plan to collaborate with, as you all know, and aligning objectives and goals. Next, the advisory board should review the CSA, discussing those partnerships, those relationships, resources, then reach out to those who may sustain objectives. You can refer to your current objectives assessment for sustainability worksheet to guide you on this process. Partners in prevention can help sustainability by keeping the issue public and keeping that conversation going. So promote community leadership buy-in and can help obtain further funding opportunities. It's important to also keep the Native Connections mission well highlighted and promoted. This helps make others aware. It helps promote the adoption of initiatives, the mission, objectives, ensuring your work continues long after the funding cycle. Now, keeping all this in mind, let's let Gary share on no-cost and low-cost sustainability efforts. Gary? Maybe Gary is having technical difficulties. If so, Val and I will step in. Gary? Okay, well, I will carry on. And if Gary is able to hop in, I know he will do so. So no cost and low cost sustainability efforts, sustaining youth activities. Let's look at what does that need to continue. Talking with council about sustainability again, key ingredient. Consider membership and recruitment. Youth seeking funding from local businesses. Businesses love that when the youth present themselves and make those requests. Youth-led social media campaigns. This has been much more predominant, I would say, during our pandemic. National organization membership, Unity, for example. Council support by providing meeting space, sponsorship, stipends, other funding that's necessary for activities. This youth council could be a tie to the tribal council knowledge of transfer to the youth as they grow.
Hello?
Building, Gary, you're back.
Okay, technical
We
difficulties.
can hear you now.
Technical difficulties up here in Alaska. I'm sorry.
Oh, goodness.
Thanks for jumping in.
Understandable. Yes, I'll let you take on.
We know that we're sharing a lot of information and there's a lot of us just talking, but we felt it was important at this stage in your Native Connection grants that you really consider sustainability and using the toolkit. Building relationships with schools and churches, your health center. Some communities have natural helpers. Those are all low-cost sustainability efforts. Sustain school-based or curriculum-based American Indian life skills, Project Venture. Look at resources listing in the toolkit. The gatekeeper training, QPR, mental health first aid, hosting a GONA or a GOAN. Get other organizations to co-fund and partner. Oftentimes, when a community has their first gathering of Alaska Natives or gathering Native Americans, the community likes to keep these going every year, and they tie in those efforts with other projects, with other programs, and the community likes to support these kind of events. What objectives from the SAP do you want to sustain? What are sustainable without any funding? Identify those objectives, activities, responsibility, and when are those tasks due? You want to update this regularly. Sample Sustainability Plan on page 19 of the toolkit is a very good guide, and we want to thank the Native Connections team who helped develop this sustainability toolkit. And now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Val.
Thank you, Gary. Realistically, you should be thinking about sustainability from the beginning of the grant. I'm going to share a couple of examples that come directly from the toolkit. First, seek out partners who can carry forward activities even after the grant has ended. You could partner with a school who can integrate cultural activities or culture camps into their curriculum, or even add one like the American Indian life skills. Funding for these activities would continue with monies received from the U.S. Department of Education. Second, communities can invest in training staff or partners to facilitate suicide prevention trainings, such as QPR, Safe Talk, or even Assist, that can be offered throughout the year and in the years to come. It can also be offered annually to school staff, clinic staff, board members, community members for a low cost or at no cost at all. Those are two great examples of how to keep sustainability in mind when identifying your goals. Now I'll turn it over to Verna. Verna?
Okay, we have covered quite a bit of sustainable ground, and now we want to hear from you. So naturally, we have a few questions we would love you to address. Your opportunity to share out, so please do so. You can do so by raising your hand at the top of the screen with the little icon, and or feel free to type in the chat box for each question. And so our chat boxes here, those are going to address a few questions. And the first question is, what have you found to work well in some of these sustainability areas? So looking at all the material we've covered and, really addressed throughout the toolkit. And hopefully you had an opportunity to skim through some of that and see in comparison of where you're currently at and hoping to achieve in this year coming forward. So far, what have you found to work well in some of these sustainability areas?
Roberta Motto from Manilik shared, empowering communities to hold their own activities. Yes, thank you, Roberta.
That is excellent progress.
I see other people are typing. Perfect. We'll go into depth with some of these areas on part 2 of the webinar.
Mm-hmm. And one of those, to refer to what Roberta's comment there, empowering communities to hold their own activities has proven vital during this current time. I see that happening with my tribe, locally. The community members are really they have always stepped up, but they are really stepping into action and just maintaining what was already in place, but yet enhancing that.
Kimberly Fowler says, increase in community members trained in the screening tools. Absolutely. Mark Goki, supporting staff professional development so that they can bill Medicaid. That's another wonderful opportunity, that third-party billing. Georgiana, training QPR trainers amongst our team to train community members. That's a big one. That's sustainable and it's ongoing. Ken Hoyt from Kenaitze, similar to Roberta, we had a neat opportunity to witness sustainability before the grant ends. We had staffing transitions and were able to see that the Out of Darkness walk here in Kenai has high chance of sustainability as it occurred even without the original walk organizer in the lead. There was community demand and institutional support. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ken. How about if we go on to question 2?
Sure. So our second question, which many of you have already spoken to, what areas do you have prepared for sustainability, or what areas can you focus on further? So maybe some of those key ingredients that are within reach and they're there just beyond their fingertips. So which ones are there that will be strongly supported for the sustainability, but they require just a little more focus?
Yeah, Lori Crawford said youth-led initiatives. Absolutely. The more youth can be involved in your work and take leadership roles, the better chance of sustainability there is as they grow older. Georgiana, setting up advisory committees in more communities. Right now we have one strong advisory committee in Santee. Yeah, once you've got that skill, you can use it over and over and over again, just like community readiness assessment. Leona Schick, I would like to create an information binder for advisory committee participants so that they're on task and track with monthly agendas. Oh, good idea. Kimberly Fowler, we implemented a youth council that we want to sustain, keeping interest among youth when they commit. Absolutely. that goes back to belonging. They feel like they belong as part of the community, as part of this effort.
These are excellent. Language for sharing. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Oh, one more typing in. We'll let Lula contribute before we move on.
Ken Hoyt said, we would benefit from making our advisory board permanent and for the board to continue its role for other grants and also to continue what has started under Native Connections. Also, the Youth Council effort here would benefit from being made permanent. Lori Crawford, we also want to include youths, peers, and community. Yeah, partnering up youth with a buddy or asking them to bring someone else every time they come to a meeting helps that network grow. Lula, when we built partnerships with community resources, we were more successful and stronger as a team. And this could continue after the grant. Absolutely. I still see some people are typing. You want to take the next ones, Verna, as they come in?
I sure can. These are excellent ideas. This is exciting. Every time we host webinars and national learning communities, regional learning communities, we learn so much from you grantees. Let's see, Lucinda says, we've been working on getting a youth culture club going. Unfortunately, of course, put on hold, yes, due to COVID-19. And so other ways of keeping that momentum, if the word was out there, how could we continue to promote it, and as time allows us to expand on that. Thank you. Excellent ideas. Okay, so excellent work happening and approaching quickly, moving as we're able. Okay, so I will read off the second question. As more info comes in, we will gladly approach those. So lastly, we want to know, are there areas you need help addressing for further sustainability, ways to carry those tasks and objectives on? What barriers? We know the big one that's been mentioned. Many events and activities and outreach put on hold due to COVID, but are there other areas as well, or what that looks like for some of you, relationships changing with other programs during this pandemic and times that we're in? So the question is, are there any areas you need help addressing for further sustainability? Mary has added in providing capacity training such as board leadership and specific resource training, QPR, mental health first aid training of trainers is always good for sustainability, indeed. And I'm looking forward to part 2 of Expressing Our Greatest Potential sustainability webinar. That will have great knowledge and insight shared by grantees. So good point, Mary. Yep, and I think Mary will have some info to share at that time too. And feel free to speak to that more. But when that training is provided to local staff, those trainers get to carry on that momentum, whether the funding is, if there's new funding to sustain that, other programs have funding, collaboration efforts that way. Any areas of further need to obtain that sustainable measure?
I see Ken is typing. Julia
has a,
Go ahead.
Julia has a great question. Are there drafts or example MOUs that could be used as a guide to help develop more site-specific MOUs? with language specific to the Native Connections grantees. And so that we could look in a Native Connections Resource Center. If there are not any already there, you know, I believe there are a good couple of examples. If there are not, I would venture to guess some of the grantees on the call may likely have some existing MOUs. They may feel willing to share that information with Julia. And yes, for example, to have that specific Native Connections language in there, I think that's a good valid point too, Julia. So that's one area needing further assistance to address sustainability with those partnerships. Ken Hoyt states our biggest challenge to sustainability is turnover, both hired or volunteer. It's a lot to ask someone to keep working on this for more than a year or two. So burnout occurs and we have transition in staff, yes. And so again, having all that documentation accessible in binders and readily transitionable, you know, in the community, like we spoke to, having the community's knowledge and input. It is a huge challenge, Ken, very valid. And so really looking at ways to maintain that language in the community and having it present regardless of staff transition. Volunteer status is tough, I hear you.
And many of you know that in the final year of almost any grant, staff are looking at securing other funding or other jobs. So, you know, 9 months before the grant ends, some of your key staff may move on and take other jobs. So the more training, the more sustainability issues you can look at throughout the life of the grant, the better chance you'll be when it comes time to put some of those sustainability things into action. And if you've got any MOUs, go ahead and send them. Julia's got her email address up there, and so does Georgiana. Or send them to your GTAs, and we can send them out to everyone. There's still some typing going on.
Leona Schick shared, a significant challenge is having few staff with multiple grant objectives and reporting requirements. And Georgiana Ausan, I too would be interested in draft MOUs. And we have a couple of participants who are interested in learning about more of what each of you are doing with your communities around sustainability, and they've provided their email addresses if you want to share some of your work.
Michelle Carnes. Hi, Michelle. It's nice to see you on here, our GPO. Keep in mind, grantees can apply for subsequent funding opportunities when they're about to end their grant. For example, Cohort 2 can apply for an FOA in the spring. That's 10 years of Native connection in your community, which is amazing and almost unheard of. So we as GTAs let the communities know when those opportunities come up. And we've got Cohort 1s that are part of Cohort 5 now, so there's 10 years. Thank you, Michelle. And I see Sharon Jordan's email there too. So send any of your ideas or any of your MOUs or policies or anything to your GTA, and we'll share them with everyone. Still see some people typing.
Jacqueline said, thank you for the webinar, very helpful. We hope so. I feel like it's a lot of information, but when you break that toolkit down, it is so useful to just take it, you know, simplify step by step. Some good networking going on here. Miigwech, I'm thankful to see that. Let's see, Mary, to address turnover. We have encouraged community organizations to keep everything organized. Yes, binders, indeed, and have a newcomer packet available. Organization is good recruitment for those newcomers. We ourselves try to keep all of our files organized in binders readily available for our staff, just in case we're not available or should something happen to us. Yes, who knows, what that would look like if somebody is no longer there or able to contribute. And just having that all in a secure spot and cross-training so that others know where to find that good information. Miigwech, Mary. And Ken is offering some more input there. We certainly appreciate this excellent discussion. It's great to share and see where everyone's at. It's a unique process, and as you see it, as different as we all have our projects, it all comes together and we can benefit from that shared knowledge. So miigwech. And so with that, go ahead.
Let's see, yeah, are there any other questions before we kind of close out here?
Okay, I think they will interject if they desire here. So we thank you for that excellent feedback and insight on these areas. Like we've mentioned, our next webinar will have the opportunity to hear from several grantees on their sustainable efforts specifically. And so we look forward to hearing from Blossom Sustainable Development, Central Oklahoma American Indian Health Council, Canetsee Indian Tribe, Mount Sanford Tribal Consortium, RWFU. We look forward to hearing from. You will also all have more opportunity to share on that upcoming Part 2, Expressing Our Greatest Potential webinar. And any further questions popping up before I turn it over to BC here?
Ken shared, he just wanted to say thanks and gunalitrish to the hosts and other participants. I think in the old days, sustainability was in our oral tradition systems. And today we're finding new ways to carry out that traditional value. Thank you so much.
Yes. Okay, so before we turn it over to BC for those updates, just a big thank you, Miigwech, for attending this first session of Expressing Our Greatest Potential. We recognize, truly appreciate the uniqueness of where you're at with your project and the service and dedication you're providing day in and day out to your communities all across Indian Nation that's shared. So thank you for your Native Connections work. BC, what can we look forward to coming up?
Thank you, Verna. Well, as you said, Expressing Our Greatest Potential, Sustainability Part 2 will be coming up on July 7th. Again, our regular 2 to 3 o'clock time, although we look forward to possibly staying on just a hair longer because we're going to have some great information from current grantees during that session. Additionally, Building Tribal Youth Resilience will be on July 21st. And one of our final webinars for the grant year will be Community Engagement on August 25th. So we really hope you will join us for those. Additionally, as some of you may know, I am the host for our podcast series, Unscripted Native Connections Conversation, excuse me. And I appreciate all of you who listen to that and who have participated. We have 2 more topics that we're going to cover: data collection activities and burnout prevention, self-care. So those are very important to your communities, and I hope if you have any interest or would like to participate, you might reach out to me, BC Echohawk at tribaltechllc.com, and I would love to hear your story, and maybe we can chat about it during the podcast. With that, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.